Well, good morning, More Than Commas community. I am coming to you from Lake Stevens, giving you a little bit about the community that I live in. It's crystal clear water. I can see right down to the bottom today. But I promised you this Friday I would explain to everybody why I got a Cybertruck. And I will carry through on my promise today. Now, this has been a weird experience for me, and I'm gonna share. Some of you may not know me as well, and you'll learn why. For those of you that know me well, you'll know why I had to make this video, because of who I am. So, for those of you that don't know me, my personality tilts toward, and my advice tilts toward, buying used cars, paying cash, or having them paid off for super low interest. Keep that car for a super long time. My prior vehicle was a 2015 Ford Explorer. I'm optimistic about the future, but while I'm optimistic about the future, I am nervous about what AI and robotics are going to mean for our children and our workplaces. Just, there's a lot of change coming really quick, and I'm not a big fan of it. And then for those of you that know me really well, you'll know I don't even particularly like EVs at all. And not because I have any particular dislike for them, but it absolutely had no interest to me to own an EV because of all of the inconveniences around it, etc., or at least how it has been. So I've just got to get this car going, and then I can focus on our conversation and finish telling you. And I'm going to show you why it is I got this. So with the full self-driving engaged, I'm not able to look at my phone very much. So it's not like a free pass to answer emails or anything like that. It likes to have you up looking at what's going on around you. Let me get this window rolled up. But now autopilot's taken over, and it's gonna drive us here for the rest of our conversation. It wants my eyes up, looking around. Sometimes it will tell me that I'm not being attentive enough, or that its view is blocked by my hat because I got too into a conversation. But here I am, somebody who doesn't like EVs, like paid off cars, etc. But a big part of who I am is also paying attention to honoring my word. And like we talked about integrity yesterday and what honoring your word means, if you didn't get a chance to hear that, I would encourage you to go back, get that, download the white paper from wherever Marla put it, and really take it in. But there's the fourth definition of honoring your word, and it has to do with the idea of expressing that your actions are coherent with what you say you believe. And that's obviously a miss. See, right there, it says it detected my device in my hand, so I have to be careful picking it up and looking that close at my notes. So that's why I'm giving you guys my decision-making process. Is for those of you that know me or follow the channel much, you'll know Corey and I are not go out, buy brand new expensive luxury cars on a whim. So I had a breakdown though, and I'll kind of walk you through how I address a breakdown in my life. Is I've got a son that's getting ready to be 16 and need a car. I've got some concerns around, concerns not like bad, but future considerations for having a trailer that can right now haul like the side-by-side when it has a mechanical issue, or the tractor to take it to a mechanic. And we don't have a vehicle that can tow those yet. On top of it, with the kids needing to learn to drive, it would be a nice kicker if they could also learn stick shift. So holding all those considerations in mind, I wanted to be able to buy, and had settled on getting a mid-1990s like square side 3/4 ton or better pickup truck. Now, to get that with 4 doors and stick shift and have the engines that I want, because there's some early 2000s Ford engines you don't want to go near, and it's still going to cost $15,000 or $20,000. But I didn't mind, and there's the threat that hangs over your head of, my gosh, you know, you're probably getting something with 250,000 miles on it, so you're going to have to replace a transmission and an engine in the first 3 years, you'd imagine. And so after kind of looking at all of that, alongside, we've got a new team member that you guys are going to meet on the channel here at some point, named Olga, who is actually getting me involved in a bunch of business community stuff that I've never really taken the time to do, which has me out on the road like I am right now with all of you a whole lot more. And the thing is, that makes me highly unproductive, and I can't focus when I'm driving. So I've found if I get a driver, then the time is used really effectively. And over the years, about every year, 2 years, I would sit down with a piece of paper and figure out, or a spreadsheet. And it would, like, if I bought an Audi A8 and then just had a college kid full-time whose job it was to get me from place to place, and seeing if it would pencil. It's always an exercise to see how valuable is my time, and am I being a good steward of my time. Well, all of that math changed with this full self-driving, because now it doesn't cost me anything to be transported somewhere. And it opened my mind to say, wait a second, there might be another option. Now, like many things, it's a friend that brings something in your life. I went fishing with my buddy Shintaro, and on this foggy, dark morning, he was in a free trial for full self-driving on his vehicle, and so he just kicked it on. And it drove us all the way to where we were fishing, absolutely no problem. Much like, hopefully, you guys are experiencing now. And it opened a whole new door for this idea, and this is a great thing to look for if you're not thinking about it on the regular, is often when you're addressing a breakdown, you're going to have to deploy capital resource, time resource, or relational resource in order to address the breakdown. Now, it might be a breakdown you have right now, or it might be an obligation that if you don't take care of it, will become a breakdown later. And so if you're looking, how do I address that breakdown? You want to look to every place you have inventory to address the breakdown. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but sometimes when this thing comes out of roundabouts, it comes out like my 80-year-old dad, who is a huge fan of NASCAR, would come out of roundabouts, which is with the pedal to the floor as he exits. So, all right, I forgot where I was, so we'll jump back to where I know it was. So that got me looking at the Cybertruck as an opportunity, because it addressed all of the potential hauling concerns that I had for the property and what we're doing there. And it opened up a new opportunity. That's what I was saying earlier. A new opportunity for, I've got to expend a resource to address this breakdown, another car in the family. But if I have to expend a resource anywhere, whether that's time, relationship, or money resource, what I want to be able to do, if possible, is additionally take an opportunity. So it's like one move on the board that does multiple things for the game that you're playing. So in this case, I realized with full self-driving, I might be able to address the concern differently. Looked at the Cybertruck, you know, how far it goes, what I would really use it for, etc. And then I got into the financial side. So the way that it broke down basically is, number one, the Cybertruck, I did the original deposit, that $100 when it was open to everybody back in, I think 2019, like right when they first released the Cybertruck. Me and another guy that I go to church with did it. Now he got his a couple of years ago, but about every 6 months I would joke with our clients. I would say I saved an extra $250,000 this year. And they say, oh my gosh, how did you do that? I said, well, I went online and I built my Cybertruck with my reservation, and then I just didn't buy it. And I did that 2.5 times this year. And so I have saved $250,000. So I have been doing that year after year since I put in my deposit. But the technology, my tax bracket at the time, like the things didn't line up. But now with the technology being what it is, when I went fishing with Shintaro, shout out Shintaro and thank you, I now could see that this could address this concern of all this extra time I'm having to spend on the road that for me is relatively unproductive. So I'll walk you through general math. You would want to check this for yourself if you were going to explore an opportunity like this, but without looking at my phone, I'll do the best to remember my math. So if I got that 1990 square side, I'm going to pay $15,000 to purchase it, and then fuel for 3 years at approximately 15,000 miles is $16,800 a year at Washington gas prices. And then you end up with some miscellaneous, repairs and maintenance, like non-big ones, that brings that operating cost up to $24,000 for the first 3 years. But on top of that, you're going to have a slider that's like another $20,000 to $25,000 if that $250,000 engine or $250,000 engine and transmission go out on you. So our total all-in cost comes to $40,000 with a highly likely additional $20,000 kicker, or a $60,000, $40,000 to $60,000 total operating cost over this window of time, this 3 years. Now the Cybertruck, by comparison, and I'm going to use round numbers, to end up like what you have due at signing is a little less than $10,000, but I'll call it $10,000 when you initially go into the lease. And the lease I did was 15,000 miles a year, 3 years. Now the lease itself, if anybody later wants to get in the math or put anything in the comments, came out to be about a 4.3% interest loan when you count the residual on the back end. Now for me, what I did is I looked at purchasing it versus leasing it. If you purchase this vehicle because of its weight and because I'm keeping the old vehicle, this can be dedicated to business purpose. If it's dedicated to business purpose, with that big deduction, I can write off the entire purchase price of, say, $90,000 all in 1 year. Now that's worth like $27,000-ish, $30,500 to the bottom line, which would pay the payments for a long time. But what it doesn't do is give me the option to just step right into the next newest technology vehicle they have in 3 years, which is what I think is going to happen. So that $900 payment, after deducting it at my federal rate, it comes out to be $580, I think it is, or $560 is the actual monthly cost of the Cybertruck after tax. But I'm going to use the full gross $900. And its total ownership cost over that period of time ends up being $32,000 in payments, $10,000 in like signing, and yeah, that's it. And there's really no other maintenance cost on one of these. So it's an all-in 3-year cost of $40,000, plus I pick up all the benefits that at least I cared about, with none of the extra risk of having an extra employee to manage, which is what I most didn't want, because that adds maintenance and complexity to my life. Is that this vehicle removes a fair amount of regular vehicle maintenance, but it also allows me to have this opportunity to do something like have this conversation with all of you while I'm totally present. The car is doing its job, and y'all, if you've ever ridden in a car with me, this thing is at least a 2x better driver than I am. And it is totally relaxing to be able to engage in the experience. And the last reason for why being a Cybertruck and not any of the other Tesla models is I needed the hauling capacity, etc. But if you were on the fence about full self-driving, which I was, in fact, I thought that buying this thing was a huge risk, and I was very worried about what this video would be like after owning it for 10 days. And it's actually amazing. But what I was really worried about whether full self-driving would do what this is going to do. Now let me give you the last reason why I got the Cybertruck. And this is the dark reason. The dark reason is I'm really worried about what are the effects going to be on society. Now when I say worry, I'm putting that common lexicon. I worry about almost nothing. But holding a concern that society is going to bump into some significant breakdown, I'm actually going to turn around because I want to upload this footage when I get home. So to tell y'all what I'm doing, let me turn this camera a little bit. And what you'll be able to see is I'm just going to end the trip I'm on. It's still going to keep me on this road. And now I'm just going to ask it to send me home. And then if you guys saw that, the screen, I had looked away too long at the navigation, and the screen blinked with this blue telling me I need to engage with it. All right, now with it now getting ready to take us back to my house, let me share with you the dark reason that we did this. The AI robotics are going to change everything. And we don't know how much. And anybody telling us how much, I think is, they might be right or they might not be. But I think any of us listening to those people should really keep an open hand on any of those ideas, because nobody really knows how much it's going to change or what the world looks like in 5 years. It might be drastically different. It might be very similar because the technology moves, but people don't adapt enough. And if people don't adapt to the new technology, it doesn't get its next level of development. So if you guys don't believe that, look at online meetings and how much that technology built out and how many more people were in it and how much better some of the services became since we were doing Zoom meetings across COVID. Suddenly this thing of online meetings that was only adapted by some people at some companies, everybody's doing it now, and it's changing the communication landscape, just the adaptation. Another great example is texting before Hurricane Katrina. That entire part of the South was really slow to adapt any new technology, especially mobile communications and short form communication like text. Well, after Hurricane Katrina, when the cell phone towers would get all jammed up with signal because everybody's trying to call at the same time, what you could get through was an SMS text, because it's just a little tiny data packet and just needs to, it doesn't hold a signal like a cell phone signal does. And so then in a matter of months instead of years, like taking a generation and young people to change habits, everybody changed habits overnight because of this massive adoption. Now, I feel confident, and I hope that all of you are thinking this same way or that you are adapting. If not, I feel like my industry, what Sound Financial Group and our advisors do for clients, is not going to be replaced anytime soon by AI. But I have also read history of very confident people that were surprised. And I don't want to be surprised. I don't want to be surprised for the sake of myself, my family, my employees that I feel I have a stewardship over with Corey, and this, just caring for all of our clients as all of this stuff goes on, that we have a philosophy about how we're facing it. Well, while I'm confident about mine, I think a good way to stay sober about the danger that you're in is sit front row while somebody else gets absolutely destroyed. And it's going to happen for Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft are really, really close to getting entirely wiped out. And how it's going to happen is with infrastructure that already exists. It's not, it's common knowledge out there, but we don't talk about it often, is that the Uber driver, who, as many of us know, who's ever ridden an Uber, they're not super happy with the amount of money Uber pays them. And yet they are 75% of the cost of your fare. Okay, so think about that. They're 75% of the cost of your fare. Oh, there is a stopped semi in front of us. Let me let you guys see this. We're gonna see how this deals with it. I got no hands on. Look at that. A stopped semi right in this kind of like sometimes dedicated carpool lane. And it just dealt with it. It's really fun to see those things happen. So with AI, like in Austin right now, what people can do is they can just set their Tesla up and put it in robo-taxi mode. That robo-taxi mode requires no new infrastructure or anything else. It's being piloted out there right now. But if we end up with federal or overwhelmingly state legislation that allows for autonomous driving, everybody who has a Tesla, I don't know, millions that are on the road, people are going to be able to walk out with, I think, anything built after 2023, put on robo-taxi mode, and their Tesla will go out and earn for them while they go do whatever they, sleep at night, or go to their office and set it in robo-taxi mode, and it's going to go out and work for the day. And what's going to happen is this enormous company, Uber, that displaced an entire industry in the last 15 years of taxi cabs and created other full industries like Grubhub and all of this comfort with apps like Postmates, that Lyft, other companies that do the same thing, have all sprouted, and they were able to win because they didn't have the investment in infrastructure that was required for the existing entity. Well, if you want to take over Uber now in any conventional sense to replace the fleet of cars that are out there, it would take you, I don't know, $1 trillion? A ridiculous, unobtainable amount of money. And yet, the inventory of cars that are going to be in the Tesla fleet are already owned by other people, and Tesla is making the model a 100% cost of goods sold model, because all somebody has to do with this $100,000 piece of equipment that's already owned by somebody is they will lend it to that network at a much lower cost than Uber, with a driver that never has bad breath, that never talks on the phone with their mother-in-law while you're driving, who never has like a meal of something sitting in the passenger seat that feels like it's been in that hot sun all day by the time you get in the car. All that's gone. And it's going to cost, they're going to keep some juice, but say it costs 40% of what an Uber driver is, who's going to choose the Uber driver? And it'll have, even people that like human drivers, what they like also is saving their money. And so I want to be front row when I see this change. I don't know if I'll put my car in it much, but I might give it a try, just see how it is. I did that years ago with Airbnb, and it was a fun experience. So we'll see how all this turns out, but that is the last kind of final straw for me, was I need to be front row of watching some bad stuff happen so that I can do what's possible to protect me, my family, clients, and employees by maybe having a different view of what's coming. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I know like a tsunami, it's coming, and I would sure like to be in a position that I can at least try and surf this thing as it comes through, because it's coming through anyway. No sense in being in a big disagreement about it. And then if you ever do consider buying one of these, I got to tell you, I never drove one before. One of my friends was encouraging me to do the 2-day test drive they give you, that let you borrow the car for 2 days, and I didn't do that because I've never bought a car or vehicle because of how it drives, not since I was a teenager. Why I bought vehicles is specifically because they had a job to do, and this thing has a job to do, and after owning it for 10 days, I think it's doing it far better than I could have imagined. In fact, what the math comes out to with what I'm worth to the company per hour, all I have to do is be 2.5 hours more productive per month. And as you can see, in the time that we've recorded this and I've been able to drive around town, it's making me way more productive than 2.5 hours a month. And so as you all are out there and you're thinking about strategy for your family and your future, I would just encourage you to think about it from the standpoint of, as you address each of these things, try to look for where are the opportunities, because the money has to be spent anyway. And if you're addressing breakdowns and you can take enough time to shut off the device, do something like get into the tilt and some things I learned today and get a little long form content in you, think strategically, you can have an opportunity where, like, I think when this is done and we kind of get this integrated into my calendar, this new ability, I think this thing may well end up turning a profit for me, having it and having a really nice, cool thing, because it is really cool. I can have a cool thing and have it paid for by how much more productive it makes me. And don't get me wrong, I would love to have that 3/4 ton stick shift diesel, but if this is going to address more concerns in my life and let me live it more fully with my family, I'm going to take that every time. Now, one last word. I don't care how anybody listening to this feels about Elon Musk. But I wouldn't care if that man was, the only idea he ever had is that one day a vehicle like the one I'm sitting in would exist and somebody else fully invented it. I mean, this is a game changer for people getting a chance to use it. And it's going to change mobility of our aging population. There was an older gentleman in our Rotary that just got a self-driving vehicle, and he was raving about it. And I know why. And it's not the kind of thing you say out loud, but when you're getting older and you're losing some of those abilities, those of you that have spent time and had deep conversations with an aging parent will know what I'm talking about, is that when you lose a step, one of the biggest concerns is I'm not going to be able to drive anymore. Or I'm not confident to drive. I might still be able to pass the test and the vision and everything else, but with the way these kids drive today, you've heard them say it, with how big these trucks are, and that older person, as technology comes along and we get more comfortable with it, is going to be able to stay independent and connected to their community far longer. So while I know for a lot of us, a lot of the technology can be scary, I would like to move up to a mountain, have a bunch of horses and a wood stove in a cabin, and just call it good. I could have done without the last 20 years of technological development, but I'm responsible for the people that I'm responsible for in my own future to tilt into it, understand it, and not sit on the sidelines. When the wheel was invented, you don't want to be pulling a sled on sticks anymore, even if you don't like the wheel. And it's coming. So Elon Musk, amazing that your brain could conceive of this, number one. And number two, and I think this is something people don't appreciate, and not that there isn't an enormous financial opportunity that incentivizes people to work for these innovative companies like Tesla, but goodness gracious, to be smart enough that you have that many super brilliant people willing to work at your company to, again, create what I feel like is the greatest vehicle I've ever been in. And I feel like I'm sitting in a coffee shop talking to all of you, because it's handling everything, and I'm getting the gift of looking at God's creation out these beautiful windows. And all of that because that existed in that man's head however long ago. And when TV shows like Top Gear intentionally sabotaged his equipment to make it, he could have destroyed his entire company. And what a lot of people don't know is those Top Gear guys were his heroes. He loved that show. He loved vehicles like they would get into and test, and so imagine your heroes doing something that totally destroyed and nearly destroyed his company. And he's gone through a lot more than that, and he's a flawed man like all men, but my goodness, thank you Elon Musk for this car. Now with that, I promise not to let this self-driving make every tilt, everything I learned today take this long. But I'm glad you guys hung out with me for it. I hope you guys were able to learn a thing or two. And I look forward to seeing you guys back here on Monday. Now get back to living a great life.